I recently pre-ordered and bought two phones. The first one I bought was the Galaxy S25, for which I paid exactly €728 for the 256GB variant. The phone has three cameras, the best and latest chipset on the market, a 120Hz display with minimal bezels, and is overall a great package. A few weeks later, I bought the 256GB variant of the iPhone 16e for €835, which, if you think about it, doesn't sound right. This makes the iPhone 16e around €100 more expensive than the Galaxy, at least in Europe. The iPhone 16e only has one main camera, no ultrawide and no telephoto. It has a 60Hz display, a top-notch similar to the iPhone 14, and a stripped-down version of the regular A18 chipset. Overall, it doesn't sound like a good deal. That said, the iPhone 16e also surprised me in a few positive ways that I'll get into later. I am more and I buy these phones with my own money, which I think makes my reviews a bit different. Every time I want to get a new phone, I always try to find the best deal to pay less. This way, I can put myself in your shoes when you decide to buy a phone. And I can tell you, buying the iPhone 16e really hurts. As I mentioned, the first difference you'll notice between the two phones is the display. There are a few things that make the S25 a better deal. For starters, the display brightness of the iPhone 16e is not great. The phone really struggles to get bright under sunlight. And it was the first time in the past year that I've reviewed the phone where I couldn't see the screen when it was bright outside. Another problem is that the thick bezels on the iPhone 16e, which makes the phone look cheap. Also, the top notch still exists on the iPhone 16e because Apple is recycling those parts from the iPhone 14. That said, the resolution of the screen on the iPhone 16e is great, and if you play YouTube or HDR content, you are going to enjoy it. The other area where the Galaxy S25 does a better job is the refresh rate. The Galaxy S25 display is LTPO, which means the phone varies the refresh rate based on content. For animations and things that require a smooth experience, the phone goes up to 120Hz. The display on the iPhone 16e is fixed at 60Hz, meaning the phone can provide a smooth experience. Some may argue that 60Hz is better for battery life, but based on my experience, the new LTPO displays are as power efficient as the old 60Hz OLED displays and don't necessarily save any battery life. Both phones have an aluminum frame. The Galaxy S25 is slightly lighter at only 162 grams, while the iPhone is 5 grams heavier. The iPhone has an action button on the side, while Samsung only has volume rockers plus the power button. Thanks to the EU, both phones have a USB-C charging port. Looking at the back of the Galaxy, the S25 has three cameras, while the iPhone has only one main camera. This makes a difference in many situations. That said, the main camera of the iPhone 16e is still okay. What's good about the iPhone is its consistency in video. The iPhone 16e's video quality is similar to other iPhones in terms of colors. On the other hand, the green reflections that appear in the middle of the screen are also consistent and exist on this iPhone too. The Galaxy S25 suffers from the typical problems of Galaxy phones when it comes to video, including exposure shifts when filming in dark rooms. For pictures with the main lens, I do prefer the iPhone's overall colors, as the Galaxy lens is too magenta. But with the Galaxy, we can also use the ultra-wide lens, which is neat and allows for a slightly different shot. For 10x zoom, the Galaxy uses its telephoto lens, while the iPhone crops in with the main sensor. But to my surprise, the iPhone result is still respectable. Moving back to the main lens, I wouldn't say either of them has a huge advantage over the other one in this shot. That said, the moving or rotation will not work well with the iPhone. As you can see, if I rotate the phone suddenly, the footage on the iPhone lags, which is not a great sign. Another surprising thing about the iPhone 16e was the very weird stabilization. I noticed in this shot that the iPhone 16e camera is warping, and there is focus hunting happening at the same time. iPhones are usually known for great stabilization, but here the Galaxy is doing a much better job. I wonder if the lens on the iPhone 16e has even optical stabilization. The main camera performs well outside on both phones, and there isn't much difference in processing. Both have great dynamic range and natural looking colors, though the tone of the iPhone 16e is a bit warmer than the Galaxy S25. At 3x zoom, the iPhone's digital crop can still keep up with the optical zoom on the Galaxy. At 10x zoom, things start to change, and there are many more details in the Galaxy's picture compared to the iPhone 16e. In general, having three cameras is very useful when taking pictures and walking around in the city. That said, I don't mind having only one camera on my phone if I'm going for a budget or even mid-range option. In low light situations, the motion blur on the iPhone 16e doesn't look great, despite the fact that the Galaxy is usually known for having less than ideal motion blur. I'm starting to think this might also be due to stabilization issues on the iPhone. If the subject is not moving, both phones can create great night shots, though the tone of the Galaxy is again more magenta. For video processing, the iPhone has the green reflection on the screen. But other than that, the processing on both phones are great, despite the slight color differences. The selfie camera on the iPhone performed much better in low light, in my opinion, compared to the Galaxy S25. The camera app on the Galaxy has more options than the iPhone 16e. That said, both have portrait mode. Also, I did notice that sometimes portrait mode does not kick in on the iPhone 16e compared to the Galaxy S25. This happened at both 1x and 2x zoom. I had to get closer to the camera so the phone could detect me properly and start blurring the background. When it did, I said my skin tone turned out too green for my taste on the iPhone 16e. The chipset on the iPhone 16e is a downgraded Apple A18. To test the performance, I ran two benchmarks. The first was 3D Mark Wildlife, which tests the graphics performance of the phone, important for gaming. The result was a clear win for the Galaxy, and the Galaxy got a much higher score. For the second test, I ran Geekbench, which measures CPU performance. In this test, the Galaxy S25 had better single-core performance, while the iPhone 16e had better multi-core performance. In general, you won't have any issues with either of these phones for daily tasks, but for gaming, I'd recommend picking the Galaxy S25, especially if you play 3D heavy games like Genshin Impact. The iPhone 16e also has Apple's new modem, the Apple C1, while the Galaxy uses a Qualcomm modem. In real-life city usage, I ran multiple internet speed tests on 5G and both had similar speeds. I didn't experience any connection issues with either of the phones. That said, I need to do more tests as I haven't yet pushed the phones by going to more rural areas or places with a weaker connection. The battery capacity of the iPhone 16e is larger than that of the iPhone 16 and is more similar to the Galaxy S25. In my test, the iPhone 16 and Galaxy S25 had similar battery life in a day in the life test, so you will most likely get a bit more juice out of the iPhone 16e compared to the Galaxy S25. An educated guess would be around 10 to 15%. That said, let me know in the comments if you want me to do a dedicated battery test for the iPhone 16e. The iPhone 16e is not a bad phone by any means. It could be a good mid-range phone from Apple with solid processing power and a semi-decent main camera. The lack of the telephoto lens and ultra-wide isn't necessarily a deal breaker. To this day, I still use my iPhone XR, which is still getting software updates for my business since I only use it for a small task. In fact, the iPhone 16e is probably going to be a corporate phone. For example, when I worked at Adidas, I got the latest base model iPhone like everyone else as a work phone, and the 16e can easily fill that role. That said, as an end consumer, for the first time on this channel, I can confidently say there is no reason to buy the 16e. This phone is a joke at this price point. Both the iPhone 16 and 15 are much better and more reasonable choices than whatever Apple was trying to achieve here. On the other hand, the Galaxy S25 is a well-rounded phone that I can recommend to anyone looking for a compact device. It gets 7 years of software updates, has good battery life, great performance, and a decent camera for the price and size. If you enjoyed this video, you can watch the day in the life comparison of iPhone 16 versus the Galaxy S25 next. Thanks for tuning in to Techmo, and I will see you in the next one.